I want to start off with 5 professional achievements that I had in my career. Number 1, I worked for Mckinsey Silicon Valley office for 7 years and I'm really proud about that. Number 2, I went to INSEAD for my full-time MBA and that was a life-transforming experience. Number 3, I teach at Trinity College Dublin, one of the top 100 universities in the world right now. Number 4, I have 200,000 plus social media followers who trust me. And finally, I also run a profitable edutech bootstrapped company based out of India with an Italian co-founder. Each one of them is difficult to achieve and I could do all the 5 of them in my career because I know what worked for me and what and how luck played an important factor throughout my journey. I know personally a lot of people who are much more intelligent than I am, who are much more hardworking than I am as well, but if luck doesn't favor you or me, we really can't cross that line. So we need to be grateful about what life has given to us. Absolutely no questions. You might try, but end of the day, you need to acknowledge that luck factor as well. In this video, I want to talk about 3 personal stories from my career to help you understand and how you need to be grounded and also appreciate what you received and what you got in your life so far. A lot of times, we get these things right in front of our eyes, but a lot of other times we can only connect the dots backwards like what I'm doing today. So let's get started with the video, and the first story I want to talk about is once I completed my graduation from NIT Rourkela. NIT Rourkela is definitely a great institute, but it is not one of the top institutes in the country. After graduating from NIT Rourkela, I got an offer from Accenture. My parents were happy, I was happy. The package was 2.75 lakhs per year. Well, 14,000 rupees in hand. Now, after 6 months, not doing any work, and finally, one of my friends called me and said that, hey Pavan, there is this opportunity at Musigma, do you want to apply? I didn't even know the company, but I still applied because it was in the areas of my interest, and I personally know for a fact that I'm decent enough in analytical reasoning. So I applied, and the day before I was preparing for the interview, a friend of mine who happens to be one of the best debaters in our university, I asked him, hey, there is a group discussion round, how do I prepare for it? He took a topic, an example topic, and he explained me how to go about putting our points across in a group discussion. That was vital. When I went ahead and when I started sitting and started looking at the interview place, I realized that there were 250 plus folks who were ready to jump into that company. After the first round, 100 folks were selected. After the second round, all these are analytical rounds, and after the second round, close to 40 were selected and all of us were put together in group discussions. I went out for lunch, I missed my spot, so they put me in an alternate group. 10 people, really good people, I do remember even till today. Everybody was getting excited to jump into their discussion, and I was like, shit, I already made a bad impression by not showing up for my group. And when the topic came out for the discussion, I realized that it was what I was discussing with my friend yesterday. Now imagine, I knew the topic beforehand. I knew what a best debater would talk about with respect to that topic, and I already heard the other 5 to 7 folks in that room talking about that topic. So the panelist, when he asked me, hey, what are your views? I had everything sorted in my head by that time. Now you can tell me that, hey, I was prepared for that interview the day before, so it all worked out. But I also attribute it to the point that, hey, I wouldn't have missed the first group if I know that, hey, they were putting my name in that first group, right? So luck played a huge role, and I cleared that GD round. Only 2 out of the 10 people cleared, and I know others in the group who are really, really good, but I had that advantage of knowing the topic beforehand. Now this was a very important thing for me in my career because Accenture was taking me nowhere, but Musigma really was acting like that foundational element to my entire career. And I'm grateful for that. I got to work with a boss who was a retired dean of an MBA college. He was my direct supervisor. He helped me pick up so many concepts, understand them at the fundamental level, and also gave me the right motivation on how to think about work in one's life. That was, again, fundamentally phenomenal for me. Now, after I worked for 3.5 years at Musigma, then I decided to say that, okay, now I learned a lot. What do I do next? This is where the second chapter begins. At that time, Mu Sigma raised $100 million. This was 2011-2012, and raising $100 million in funding in one round was not even heard of. Yeah, well, not even many companies do that even today. And you can imagine what was the euphoria around and how people were talking about Mu Sigma at that point in time. So in 2011, when I started to look out, Mu Sigma raised this $100 million round, and it was not a startup, an unknown startup to anybody. People knew that startup. So when I went into the market, I already had an advantage. I applied to 300 plus companies. No kidding, 300 plus companies. And out of these 300 plus companies, I also applied to McKinsey, BCG, Bain, Goldman Sachs, you name it, all the top companies in the world. Well, why? Because I don't know. I thought if there is a company, if there is an opening, I can apply. That was my thought process, as simple as that. And when I applied, McKinsey actually called me for an interview because McKinsey, BCG, Bain, and some of the other big consulting companies were looking to buy Mu Sigma itself. So when they got a profile from Mu Sigma, they were excited. Well, it was on me to clear the interviews. McKinsey interviews are still tough. But if I were to think about it, I wouldn't have received that interview invite. If not for the $100 million raise, if not for the timing of the raise, if not for the timing at which I applied. I still prepared well, I still cleared the interviews, which is not an easy thing anyways. But still, you can understand how luck favored me in a lot of ways in this second step as well. Well, when that helped me, I cleared it, I moved on into McKinsey, and that gave me a real push in my career. Right? You can imagine how McKinsey can add value to anybody in their career. Now, after I started working for McKinsey, I wanted to do an MBA all the time, even before McKinsey. So I started looking out for colleges, and INSEAD was one of my top choices. I applied for a few universities, and even I wrote CAT multiple times. Let's not even get there. I wrote multiple times the CAT, and I did not even get an interview invite from ABC or other top colleges. So when I thought about applying to INSEAD, I did my deep research and I realized that I need to improve my profile. And what does profile improvement mean? I asked around the people and they said, hey, do some kind of volunteering experience. I took 3 months off from McKinsey to build my profile, and I started teaching in a school in Washington, DC. Well, I did that full time for 3 months. After the end of 3 months, I realized that I love teaching more than consulting. The activity started for a purely professional reason that I wanted to improve my profile. But by the end of 3 months, I realized that in the long run, I wanted to be in the education space. When these kids came to me after it was a high school, so I don't know if I can call them kids, but 15-year-olds, 16-year-olds, when they came to me and they said that, hey, thank you, Pavan, for teaching us these things. I was like really passionate about it, and I was thankful and grateful to these guys for that opportunity. So when I moved on and I joined INSEAD, and even after INSEAD, I very clearly knew that end of the day I would leave McKinsey and I will pursue something in the education space. And that's the reason why I actively pushed for opportunities like a teaching opportunity at Trinity College Dublin and starting an edutech company. All these things are the byproducts of that 3-month volunteering experience. You can imagine, right? It was done for a different reason and how it changed my life altogether. Now, after INSEAD, it was very obvious what I wanted to do. So my essays also came out very strong, and INSEAD had no reason to reject me. That was how strong my profile became immediately after that 3-month experience. Then after INSEAD, I went on, continued with McKinsey, and I moved out of McKinsey, came back to India, started struggling in the education space. I wanted to create that impact, but I realized that at an individual level, adding this value is very difficult. But still, I did try. I made a lot of LinkedIn posts, I started doing that, and ultimately I also started reaching out to a lot of people around the world to understand the education systems. And that is how I also reached out to one of the students at that point in time in Trinity College Dublin. I reached out to him through a cold message on Facebook. Well, we don't even use Facebook anymore, but I did reach out to him in 2019-2020, early 2020. And when I reached out to him, he was very happy to have a conversation with me. To tell you the truth, I have sent more than 100 plus messages to undergrad students around the world, and probably 10 or 15 have replied back, and he was one of them. I talked to him, understood how Trinity College Dublin works, then how the Irish education works, and all those things. And 6 months down the lane, he connected me with Professor Julio and said that, hey, Professor Julio is also passionate about entrepreneurship, passionate about education, you might work together. That's how my journey started with Professor Julio, and ultimately that led to a teaching opportunity as well. Now you can see I sent 100 cold messages and one of them responded, and he happened to introduce me to his professor. He was an undergrad student, and Professor Julio typically does not take undergrad classes. Only that year he happened to take the classes and he got connected with this student, and ultimately the entire circle, the loop kind of finished. Now you can see how that helped me achieve whatever I wanted to. One thing I want to highlight through all these experiences is that I tried at every single opportunity that was in front of me. I tried to capture every single thing. After coming out of McKinsey, after having 10 plus years work experience, there was no need for me to send 100 plus cold messages to students, undergrad students from around the world. But I still did that because I was passionate about education. And one of them worked out. My end goal, the reason why I'm doing this entire video is, please understand that luck will come to you. The lady luck will fall on you one day or the other, but you need to send 100 emails. You need to prepare for that interview. You need to be applying for these jobs, and you need to pick up on these volunteering opportunities. Only then some of them will work out, some of them won't. And if I look back right now, I can connect all the dots. There are a lot of other stories that I can tell where things did not work out for me as well, like applying to all the IIMs immediately after undergrad. But that's the story for another day. If you believe that, hey, this video is helpful for you, and if you believe I can share more of my personal stories and that can add any value to your life, please do let me know in the comments, and I will add a little more personal vibe to the YouTube channel. Thank you so much for all your support so far. Please do subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Take care guys. See you again. Bye bye.